Hey guys, so I wanted to put together a crash course in Robert's Rules of Order as we move forward with our election process and constitutional amendments for the Poultry Science Club for the end of the year. I've left this pretty plain and pretty open. Um, Things would obviously be running a little bit different if we were doing this in person. But as of right now, with the COVID-19 happening, that's not going to be an option. So I wanted to make sure I could at least talk you through some of this as we potentially may be doing a Zoom meeting, and just so everyone kind of knows what's going on. Before I really get into the weeds on this, I want to kind of remind you that how this should be happening is that the president will be the one conducting all of the business, and the secretary will be the person who is writing everything down. Um, and especially with the election process, that's going to be who was nominated, who seconded the motion, and if the nominee accepted or declined the nomination. So all of that should be written down. And really, what that does is just make sure that, if someone asked for our records, or if someone felt this was unfair, or if they felt like, someone's out to get them and we didn't give them a fair shot, this kind of protects us. And this makes sure that we just make sure that we cover ourselves and make sure that we do this as fairly as possible. So let's get into it. Why do we use Robert's Rules of Order? First and foremost, this is just to make sure that we have a implemented procedure and an organized way of handling business, especially when it comes to implementing changes. Change is hard for people. This year, we've implemented a lot of change, and we really picked up the amount of meetings that we've had and the way that we conduct business. And we are going to continue to keep moving forward and to keep implementing those changes. But again, it's just to make sure that everything that we do or any rules that we change, it's being done fairly, and it's something that the majority of, in our case, the Poultry Science Club, agrees with. So again, just to make sure that everything is fair. And beyond just the Poultry Science Club, this is a pretty common procedure and way of conducting business, not only with what we do. Most student organizations should be handling business in a similar way. And then beyond that, I know Rotary clubs, FFA, different types of professional organizations also use this. So it's going to be kind of good for you to keep in the back of your mind as you move forward professionally as well. So when we start the election process, like I said, the business is conducted generally by the president. And if it is not handled by the president, it is usually handled by the vice president, and then they're down, depending who was there that day. The election process starts from the top down. And what that means is that the president or the highest office will be nominated for first. And that's because um, those bigger roles are going to be something that we absolutely have to fill. And some of the potentially easier positions towards the bottom that are designated for someone new coming on might have more interest. So again, president first, and then vice, secretary, et cetera, depending the organization. So to walk you through how a nomination will sound like, since we're doing this audio, the president will call for nominations, and that will sound like this. I am now taking nominations for the office of president. Do I hear any names from the floor? And from there, someone will call a name from the floor. So that's going to be members. Other officers can call a name. So that will sound like, I nominate Ryan. From that point, someone must second the nomination. And that will sound like, I second the nomination, or you could also say seconded. From that point, and this is a very important piece, the person who was nominated must accept or decline. They have every right to, and this could be in a situation where it's an office that they truly don't want because they know it's a lot of work, but a lot of people think they would be good for it. Or potentially, if there's 6 people running for the same position, they don't want to be that 7th person. So, whatever the situation might be, they have to accept or decline. And it's totally fine if you decline a nomination. We're not going to hold anything against you. But again, this is all for record keeping. You must accept or decline. So let's talk through some potentially roadblocks or sticky situations we might run into. So say there is 4 people running for president. Eeny, meeny, miny, and mo decide that they're all going to be the president of the Poultry Science Club. And one of them decides, I don't think I'm going to win. I'm also going to accept a nomination for the office of secretary. Can you do that? And that answer is yes. You can accept as many nominations as you want. They just, again, have to be seconded by somebody, and then you have to accept the nomination for all positions. So that's absolutely possible. If 4 people are running for the same position, that ballot spot, instead of having one person versus one person, will have all 4 names. Now, this is where it could be a little bit tricky. To be elected through Robert's Rules of Order, you need 50% of the votes of the quorum. And quorum means that 2/3 of the people attend or vote, I guess, in our situation, since it will be online. So first, to vote, you need to be a paid member, and then you have to fill out the form. And once you get that 50% of votes, you will then be elected. On the other side of that, if there is only one person running for a position, they will still need over 50% of the votes, which means when the voting happens, they will have an option to abstain from your category. So say there's only one person running for treasurer and you just don't think that person is fit to handle the money, you can not vote for anyone in that position, and you would then force us to go into a renomination. And lastly, with that, if no one is running for a position because this is a Zoom meeting and nobody shows up, we will then be forced into the option of potentially postponing the election and the nomination process, or we can make a constitutional amendment to come back to this in the fall when we are back in person, or try again, in August or something like that. So these are things that could pop up and happen. I want to put them on your radar, but fear not. I just don't foresee this happening, or if one of these things happens, again, it's not a big deal. So I'll be there to coach you through it. Secondly, when we have people who accept nominations, we will create a ballot, and we will create this ballot using Qualtrics. I've looked into a few different options, but this option I think is the best because, one, it's anonymous. I won't be able to see who voted for who, just so no one's feelings are hurt, or you just don't think I'm going to treat you differently if you didn't vote for the people who were elected or things like that. So it's, again, going to remain anonymous, but with that, it will calculate the percentage as well. And like I said, you do need over 50% of the votes of the quorum to be officially elected. Um, so with speeches and ballots, this year it's going to look obviously a lot different than it has when it's in person, but I'll kind of speak on both. So traditionally, speeches have been the following meeting after nominations. This year, we have the option of either adjourning and doing it the following meeting, or we can call a recess and do speeches the same meeting. And what I mean by recess is a few minutes break and then they come back and do it. Or since we also will have constitution and bylaw changes as well, we could go ahead and do that business and then do speeches afterwards. And I think that might be our way to go just because we'll already have people there. But again, this could depend on if certain positions are vacant or if no one decides to show up. That might change our plans a little bit. But moving forward with the ballot, once people are nominated, names will be put on a ballot for the nominees' prospective positions. So with voting, quorum has to be met. And what quorum means is that 2/3 of our paid members have to vote. And out of those people who voted, so say we have 35 current paid members. Now, granted, some of those are seniors and graduated. Their membership at that point is then resolved. So let's say we have then 30 paid members. We have to have 20 people vote at minimum, and then you have to have over 50% of the votes to be elected. So that means you have to have 10 or more votes to be elected. So with that, it's definitely going to be a challenge, I think, potentially to get people to vote. This is going to be done via Qualtrics form, so of course it will be sent out, and then we can also link it in the GroupMe as well as Microsoft Teams. We can put it in multiple places so people will have access, but I think this is going to be a good opportunity for you to reach out to people, make sure they're voting, and potentially we could record the Zoom meeting, and with that, with recording it, it will record the candidate speeches, and we could record, cut it down, and then if someone missed the meeting and wanted to see the speeches, we would have that availability. So with all of this technology, we're going to get through this. So just hang in there with me. You guys have been great. At this point, do you guys have any questions? I'm going to also make one of these that's going to go over the Constitution and bylaw changes and how we will conduct those. But I thought I'd kind of get you started on this, something for you to look over so we can move forward and start preparing and planning what we're going to do since April is almost here. So again, if you have any questions, write them down, send me an email, send me a GroupMe message. And we can definitely talk those out. So let me know. Talk to you guys later. Bye.